Imagine that what if we are able to extract 5 until 10% of the extractive mining waste and then convert them into something useful through valorizations? Remembering that almost 30% of the EU extractive mining waste are being wasted and discarded without any further utilization. That is a sad fact. And that is why through this initiative, Sultan Initiative, or the remediation and reprocessing of sulfidic mining waste sites, it raises the concern and becoming more important than necessary to study about this in the couple of years ahead through a circular economy approach. Introducing, my name is Lugas Raka Adrianto, or people usually call me Raka, and I am going to show you why I can be the right candidate for one of the ESR position. Tag along and follow me. I have spent 4 years during my bachelor degree studying chemical engineering with a specialization in the process engineering. At that time, it gave me a solid foundation on how to solve problems through a systematic approach. I spent also 2 years working in the chemical companies as well as in the engineering consultancy companies. Afterwards, I decided to take a leap of faith, and then I earned double degree scholarship program by the Inno Energy or EIT Inno Energy in 2 European universities, in which I spent my first year in Sweden, Stockholm, studying energy innovation with a specialization in renewable energies. And then for my specialization for the second year, I took it in Paris, France, studying energy and environment at Ecole Polytechnique. I was lucky, I can say, because I had the opportunity to do my master thesis or my master project at EDF, or Électricité de France, one of the utility company in France, in the field of waste management, or entitled my master thesis as the waste valorizations in French metropolitan and also overseas territories, in which I learned on how to design a process from a starting point or from the waste itself into different multi-criteria approach. Either we can produce it as an energy through heat, electricity, or either chemical or synthetic materials such as polymer and any other chemicals that can be produced from different processes. That is why it comes naturally to my mind that I want to take ESR15 as one of my priority, because this one gives me a perfect match with my previous experiences during my master degree as well as my bachelor degree. And it will be supervised by Professor Stephanie at ETH Zurich, as well as different and couple of co-supervisors in different institutes, according to the pre-planned in one of the appendix that has been shared by Tom. Furthermore, I will also explain what is my background in terms of scientific publications as well as scientific experiences. So I can say that there are three major parts in terms of research experiences that I possess or that I own. The first one is the core skill, in which I will talk about the process and system designs. Secondly, about my complementary skills, in which I gained throughout my bachelor study, as well as my additional or the bonus, because I also want to showcase some of my consultancy companies as well as the advisory projects that I had before I enrolled and also decided to take this ESR opportunity. In terms of the score skills, I can say that since I had already worked in different projects, especially system designing, modeling, simulation, as well as the material flow analysis or MFA, this is why in which I can also create and also solve the problems and find the bottlenecks inside the system or the process. On the other hand, in terms of complementary skills, I also have the skills in terms of the experimental approach, since during my bachelor degree, I had the chance to do 1.5 years or almost 2 years of experimental laboratory bachelor thesis, in which I developed with my partner developing a polymer that can separate bioethanol or the raw bioethanol into a pure or fuel grade ethanol for the cars and also for the automotive industries. And in terms of additional skills, I wrote it as the international projects, in which it also becomes crucial and critical because in my latest post at EDF France, I was mandated as the research engineer spearheading one of the project at that time from April until September in the topic of waste management, especially on how they can valorize waste in French metropolitan cities and also French overseas territories or DOM. It gave me the perfect opportunity because I learned many things about LCA as well as the energy simulation as well as process designing from cradle to grave. One of the things that I want to highlight as well was my experience with the World Bank team, in which I was involved as one of the research assistant in the carbon capture storage project in Indonesia. At that time, we want to retrofit one of the power plant, the coal power plant, with the new technology in order to capture CO2 and then extract them as well as pump them to the storage in order to increase the productivity of the oil reservoir. I also want to talk about my student consultancy position as well as the management and also innovation training because those skills are also important since it gave me the distinction with the other students at my universities, in which I will talk more about that later on. While on the other hand, I also had already written several publications and also presenting in several seminars. For example, I was writing one of the project at KTH in Sweden, in which in the second line I wrote it as the heat recovery from CO2 refrigeration system in supermarkets to district heating network. In Valencia in June 2018, I was writing as the main author as well as presenting over there single-handedly in front of the audience and also discussed with them in order to improve the quality of the research for the future. I also want to talk about one of the recent opportunity in which I was the presenter at the World Future Energy Summit 2018 as one of the presenter for the Young Future Energy Leaders, in which it was held in Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates, in January 2018. It was fruitful because I had the chance to talk with many stakeholders as well as the researchers around the world. Afterwards, after having the discussions as well with Stephanie and also with Stefan along the process of this ESR recruitment, I was given one of the research paper which was written by Carl Wadenbo. It was talking about the creating a framework for the product displacement in life cycle assessment. So the title is Let's Be Clearer About Substitution. And I think this one is a beautifully written because this one is suitable for this project for ESR15. It gave me a solid foundation and robust thinking beforehand before I dive into the real project of ESR15. So there are three major takeaways that I jotted down in my note. The first one was about the framework for substitution potential. So in this paper, Carl Wadenbo and the others are not trying to reinvent the wheel or creating something from scratch, but they want to display what kind of framework that they can create and also recommend to other researchers in order to have the same understanding and also transparent life cycle assessment. Secondly, they gave an example of how they can also see the life cycle assessment through this framework for source segregated organic fraction municipal solid waste, or simply abbreviated as the OFMSW, because for this kind of waste, they can separate the resource recovery into two major parts. The first one is the biogas itself, in which it can be upgraded into a biomethane that has almost a similar characteristics with the methane from the fuel gas grid. While on the other hand, it can also be upgraded, the digestate itself can also be upgraded and act as the fertilizer for the land or for the soil. So what is the relevance for these LCA studies for the future? So basically, the conclusion that I can take as one of the outcome for this will be, by having this framework, they want to stimulate the critical thinking of the other LCA researchers or any other researchers on how to present their research results in a systematic approach, and also in relevant and also transparent results. Following this presentation, I also want to explain about my soft skills and what kind of contribution, as well as my aspiration during the Sultan career or even after the Sultan cluster career. So firstly, I want to say that I had the experience of creating video of myself, in which I have already uploaded in YouTube a couple of years back. To be exact, in 2017, when I was enrolling myself as one of the mentor or one of the mentee at EIT No Energy Mentoring Program. So this video can be easily accessed through this link on the presentation. In addition to that, I also have the passion and also interest within the collaboration with different teams, and also in the multidisciplinary engineering or multidisciplinary teams. For instance, I can showcase two of the most recent projects that I had. One of them was in Berlin in 2017. I went there and I met different people from the industries, from the universities, or even professors. And we managed to secure one of the best presenter and also one of the best problem solver in the energy efficiency hackathon by DENEF, or DENEF was the German Energy Efficiency Initiative under the Minister of Energy. On the other hand, I also had the training in terms of the entrepreneurial approach in 2017. At the time, my team was also selected as one of the best team in front of the audience as well as in front of the jury, because we presented the project and our project was handed the first place in terms of the most entrepreneurial project related to sustainability of the e-waste or electronic wastes. And lastly, I wrote a blog quite often, both in my native language as well as in English. And in addition to that, I wrote about the scientific blog in, let's say, a simply written language, which was entitled "Why Good Solar PV Isn't Good Enough." At that time, I was thinking how we can deliver messages to audience, not in a too difficult language or not in a too difficult, let's say, message, but can also be consumed and also enjoyed to a wider audience. And that's why I write this blog post. And I think these three major skills, or these three soft skills, can be useful and beneficial for the ETN Sultan team, or in the dynamic ETN Sultan team. And lastly, I also want to explain how can this Sultan team have the additional benefit to my life, and also vice versa. So I can simply divide them into three major parts or three classifications. The first one is the PhD studentship of ESR Sultan. In this occasion or in this timeline, I want to basically gain a lot of networks and also expand my research capabilities in such a way so that I can excel in the novel environmental assessment methodology. Afterwards, following the ESR Sultan, hopefully I can find a place in which I can implement my skills either in the industry or research institutes as the researcher or a postdoctoral position. And lastly, in the medium and long term, I hope that I can master those skills and become an expert or consultant in this field, as well as holding a position at a university as either guest lecturer or a full-time professor. That is what I can say about the ESR position. I hope that it can vividly share what it's my mind and what is inside as the quality and also as the asset for the ESR position. Until then, see you very soon and goodbye.